I'm Adam the Intrepid Eater. I'm back on the side of my road today to talk a little bit about proper identification skills when it comes to wild edibles. This is an excellent place to show you guys some different examples of this since there's so many different species here. On the side of the road here we have all sorts of edible and non-edible species of plants, many of which have a similar looking dark blue or black or purple berry. So I just wanted to go over some of them with you and show you the necessity of learning proper identification skills when it comes to wild edibles. You want to learn these before you start picking and eating things, and it's important to do so or you might make yourself very sick. So to start out, we have this berry right here, which you can see is a dark blue blackberry, and that is what is known as common buckthorn. And common buckthorn is an invasive species coming over from Europe. It has black berries like you just saw, and those are very toxic and will cause you an endless night on the toilet with everything in you screaming to get outside of you. Not a fun time at all. So you want to avoid those blackberries. Next up we have Virginia creeper. Virginia creeper, which is right next door, are these slightly blue berries are on the red branches there. Virginia creeper is also not edible. You do not want to eat those. They're not going to cause you any major problems, but it's not gonna feel nice with those coming out of you. So right next door to those we have wild grape, and once again we have very similar looking berries on that wild grape. And wild grape and Virginia creeper grow often together and often in the same clump, and you can see them. They look very similar, and often it looks like one is growing into the other, like there's a bunch of wild grapes coming out of a Virginia creeper because they grow together so closely. Especially this time of year in the fall when things are missing their leaves, it's harder and harder to tell them apart. So you have to learn not only the identification of leaves, but also the identification of how the fruit grows, what color the stem is, all those things. Here we have wild grape again. So you can see we still have a couple leaves hanging on. We have these guys. They're nice edibles. You can see they're really purple. They're full of seeds, so they're a little different than normal grapes, but they make an excellent edible. But when you're picking them, you just got to be careful that you're not into the Virginia creeper, the buckthorn that is growing all over. They're sharing the same habitat, so just always be careful of that. We're just heading to the last bush over here, which has another similar berry, and it's all on the same side of the road here, all growing together. There's wild grape, there's Virginia creeper, there's buckthorn behind us. There's all sorts of other trees. There's even red cedars that have blueberries as well. Okay, now we're approaching the nannyberry tree. So this red here is nannyberry. You can see these dark blue berries, and they verge onto black, and those berries will make excellent wild edibles, as you may have seen in my post last week. Just let these cars go by. So once again, another blackberry. They look very similar to the grapes. They look very similar to the Virginia creeper. They look very similar to the buckthorn. These ones are edible. The wild grapes are edible. Virginia creeper is not edible, and the buckthorn is not edible. I just wanted to come back and show you briefly here this little clump that has buckthorn, it has grapes, and it has Virginia creeper all growing into the same exact area here. This is what you got to be careful of. There's Virginia creeper berries still holding on there on the red vines. There's wild grapes turning into raisins here a little bit. There's buckthorn berries as well. So see how close everything is growing together here. These are the areas you have to be very wary of. Even I have a hard time sometimes when I'm just digging in, picking the right berries. So you just want to look very closely, follow the berry back to its actual vine, We have these dried up grapes here. Follow them to the actual vine and really get a good look at which plant they belong to and if they're safe to eat. So what I'm trying to say today is that in order to become someone who likes to harvest wild edibles and likes to go out and pick things, it's not that difficult, but you do have to do your homework. You do have to research what things look like, not only what the actual thing you're looking for looks like. Like if you wanted to pick wild grape, it's good to know exactly what wild grape looks like, with its leaves, its vining structure, the way the fruit look, and the way the fruit gather in the bunches. But you also have to learn what buckthorn looks like, what all the things that resemble wild grapes look like, so you don't make yourself sick. The good news is that most wild edible guidebooks actually have the related species like on the same page as the one you're looking at. So if you looked at wild grape in most wild edible guidebooks, you would notice at the bottom that there's a list of species that resemble wild grapes. So always pay attention to that. Learn all of the species, learn your ID, do it properly, and you'll enjoy lots of wild edibles. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.